Welcome to a new video of Big Brother 161. In last episode I promised you to show you how villagers inventory works. So here it is. According to Minecraft Wiki, villagers inventory looks something like this. So it's a lot smaller than ours. A lot of these slots don't even exist. According to the wiki, villagers have 8 slots in their inventory, which they can fill with items, for example picking up from the ground, including the 4 slots for armor, and the final slot for other items, for example a shield. As you may have seen before, if some items are laid down in the ground, villagers will approach them and try to pick them up. These automatically are located in their inventory, but villagers cannot pick up just any items. The items they can pick up are limited to these shown over here, which are wheat seeds, wheat, of course bread, which they themselves can craft using wheat, but we will see that later, carrot, potato, beetroot seeds, beetroot, torchflower seeds, pitcher pods. Maybe you thought they can also pick up these flowers, but they don't seem to interact with them. Another item is bone meal, but these are exclusive only to farmers. As you saw in the inventory, they can use these spaces for armor pieces. So here we have a villager, and let's place in them, for example, this helmet. We can force this armor piece in their inventory with this dispenser. Now it is equipped. This helmet and other armor pieces are equipped with thorns, and if we punch him, we receive some damage. Another way we can see it is pressing F3 and I. We obtain some information, and we can just copy it to see it. Now we can just separate this part and see the variables pertaining to armor pieces. Here we can see 3 empty slots, and on the 4th one we can see the diamond helmet. We can do the same thing with the chestplate, the leggings, boots. All of these have the thorns enchantment. That includes, instead of a chestplate, we can place elytra. Let's copy the information again, we separate this part, and as you can see in this slot here, elytra. They cannot use it, but it is equipped. As you saw in the inventory, they have the left hand slot. And yes, we can equip a shield. We copy information, paste, and if we separate the hand items part, the shield. And we have this final villager where we have all the 6 items, we equip the previous ones. We do 6 clicks, and since this villager was previously equipped with a chestplate, it cannot hold the elytra. We take the information, paste, we separate everything. We can see the shield, diamond boots, diamond leggings, diamond chestplate, diamond helmet. But now we're going to see the main inventory, where they can pick up items and locate them there. So let's run some tests. We'll call this experiment number 1. So we're going to take information, paste it, and go to this last part, where we can see the inventory. We can see it is completely empty. So now we're going to do this experiment. First we hand over a stack of potatoes. We're going to see what happens. And indeed, in inventory we can see a stack of potatoes. So we can continue handing more potatoes. Another stack. 2, 3, 4. For the time being there should be 4. Then we hand over 8 stack of potatoes. We can see on the inventory, we separate it. Here we can see the 8 stack of potatoes. So in theory, the entire inventory should be full. In this case, this villager should not be able to absorb any more items. A single potato more, and we can see nothing, it doesn't absorb it. But remember that villagers can absorb more items, for example these ones on this list over here. So on experiment number 2, we can see that we can vary the items that villager can absorb, where we hand over 4 stacks of potatoes and 4 stacks of carrots. And again, we can see in the inventory 4 stacks of potatoes and 4 stacks of carrots. We try to hand over a few items more, and of course the villager cannot absorb them because the inventory is full. The same result with this villager over here. We can pretty much do the same thing with any villager, just remember that farmers have a few more functions. For the villager day cycle, right now we are in the working period, so this villager is going to be interacting with the workstation, the composter. For example, in this case, he absorbs all the 8 stacks of potatoes. And since it is completely full, it cannot absorb any more items. The villager can only absorb more items if he liberates some of the space, but we will see that further on. So, besides the items that are considered food, some villagers are able to absorb bone meal. So now in this experiment we have 2 villagers, one without their job. We're going to try to place some bone meal. And we can see this villager cannot absorb it, since the villager cannot use it. So we can see this function is exclusive of the farmers, as you see here. And of course, besides the items that are considered food, the bone meal, we also have the torch flower seeds and the pitcher pods, which of course villagers are able to use and plant. For example, here we have an unemployed villager. We give him the seeds. It is able to absorb them. Since this villager is not a farmer, he will not be able to plant them, but he can absorb them. Now we're going to try to hand over some flowers. And like we previously talked, the villager is not able to absorb them. Now let's try with the farmer. We hand over some seeds. And yes, he can absorb them. Now let's try with some flowers. And nothing. The same result as the previous one. In this experiment we saw that the inventory can be filled up with 8 stacks of potatoes or 8 stacks of any of the items previously mentioned. But in fact, in order to completely lock the inventory of the villager, we only need 8 items, and not 8 stacks. In this experiment we can see that we have potatoes, each of them named differently. What happens with these items is that they cannot stack up with other normal potatoes. So we're going to try to fill up their inventory with these. So first let's hand over 8 potatoes. Here we have potato number 9. And as you can see, nothing. So let's copy paste the information. Let's spread out the inventory. And we can see all the items that are located under inventory. The potatoes named from number 1 to number 8. In this final part of the item, you can see the name tags of the item. And as you can see, all 8 slots of the inventory are full. The villager is no longer able to absorb any more items. And there, you can see with the previous experiments how to fill up the inventory of the villager. They can go around, see the items, and pick them up. But let's suppose you have special villagers that you do not want to get rid of, but you, for one or any other motive, need to clear out their inventory. So let's say this. We're going to see a few experiments and show you what is the process in order to clear out the inventory of a villager. One way is to give them enough land in order for them to plant plantable items, for example seeds, with a redstone clock that periodically liberates water to pick up the items and collect them over here. But this is a quite bulky setup, slow and probably not worth it. As you can see here, most of the times, villager manages to pick up the items again, and after quite some long time, the only items it has been able to pick up are these. So on experiment number 1, we're going to see a villager that is quite locked up. I have used this tinted glass in order to see him, but you can use any other opaque block. The important thing is that this room receives no external light. The only 2 things this villager has access to is farmland and the composter, his workstation. So this setup only works for farmers. This inventory item remover only works for farmers, since it requires the villager to be able to plant. This remover consists of a small redstone contraption. This redstone lamp is the only light source in this room. This observer placed here is detecting any movement over the farmland each time the villager plants something. Right through this farmland block we have this hopper minecart just over a hopper, and the hopper directed towards a chest. So if we go over here, this observer is powering this redstone here. The redstone is powering the sticky piston. It sends a 1 tick pulse to activate this sticky piston. The redstone block is going to power this redstone. The redstone powers the repeater, set to tick 4. So this in turn powers this block, which turns on and off this redstone lamp. But only for a previous time. What this redstone lamp does is update the crop that is planted over here. And in this update, when the crop realizes it is planted but no light is over, it is going to break. As you can see, this can only remove the plantable items. So we're going to hand over this stack of potatoes towards the villager. And suppose we want this villager to have a clear inventory. Since it has potatoes, it is going to attack this farmland over here, and it is going to attempt to plant potatoes. As you can see here, he is planting. When the villager plants, the observer is going to detect it and activate the contraption. Once the redstone lamp turns off and on, it is going to break the crop. And the system collects it. We can see the potatoes being stacked over. And as a mode of an experiment, we have determined that a stack of potatoes is removed from the inventory in about 4 minutes and 38 seconds. Remember that we have all these items, which are also plantable. And yes, this remover contraption is able to remove all these items. It might take a while, but yes, in case we want to remove all 8 stacks that the villager is able to hold, just multiply this time by 8. But we also have some of the items that are not plantable. For example, we have the beetroot, the wheat, and the bread. But we have another way to also remove these items. We're going to do the following. As you may remember in the previous video where we discussed breeding in villagers, in order for them to enter love mode, they consume items. For example, we have this villager which is not a farmer, and we are not able to turn him into a farmer because we have already traded with the villager. Let's take for example its information, and we can see in the inventory this particular villager has 12 potatoes in his inventory. So, how could we remove these potatoes? One way is make them attempt to breed. So we have this villager on this side with one bed, and here another villager with a bed. And here we have a third bed in order to start breeding. Of course this bed is inaccessible because of the height, so they will attempt to breed, but they will fail. We have 2 accessible beds, one for each villager, and a third one, inaccessible. So first we're going to give this one food also. Here we have a small window for them to recognize one another, but they can also see one another over here. I just broke the bed, and breeding failed. We take information, and we can see in the last part the inventory, it's completely empty. And of course this method can be combined. For example, here we have 2 villagers separated by a wall. Of course we can combine this with the breeding method where they will attempt to breed and fail. In the window we can place this hopper arrangement. We have Minecraft hopper, a hopper, and a chest. You can see their vision vector is over here, and they can see one another. The hopper minecart is not going to interfere with the vision, it will only extract the items. So first let's assume this villager has some carrots. He has 64, he's going to attack the other villager has none. So this villager is going to give away all the carrots except 24. He delivered the carrots to the other villager, so we wait for a while. Take the information, and as you can see here, he has only 24 carrots. And if we go to a chest, the other 40 carrots are over here. Of course in survival mode, seeing this information with F3 and I is impossible, unless you have admin rights. But the way you will see this is knowing the mechanic where they deliver all the food except 24 items. And the last step, if you want to get rid of the last 24 items, we can do the following. We take another 24 items, like potatoes or beetroot or carrots, or 3 bread, and give them to the other villager. And now all the requisites necessary to engage in love mode have been met. You can see the first attempt failed, and they will consume the items. And that is the second attempt, failed. Remember that each fail is going to consume 12 carrots. So again we take the information, and we go to the inventory. Instead of 24 carrots, you can see the inventory is completely empty. So with these methods you can see we already reviewed all the items that can be removed from the inventory. That includes the items that are consumed by 12 each time they try to breed, for example beetroot. And in the case of bread, for example this villager has bread, they are consuming quantities of 3. Remember that each attempt consumes 12 carrots, or equally 3 bread for each villager. Here you can see the failed attempt, and of course the inventories are empty. So now, remember, we also have to see how to remove wheat. As you may know, villagers are able to craft bread using wheat. So if the villager is absorbing wheat, it is crafting bread. Let's see how this works. So let's give this villager 63 wheat. They get absorbed, and the information we can see the 63 wheat. Why 63? Well, I wanted to give him a multiple of 3 for the villager to use all the wheat. But one thing is missing. The only villager that is able to craft bread is the farmer. Here's the composter. And as you can see in this information, this villager had already started to craft bread. As you can see, he has 54 wheat and has used the rest to craft bread. And this way he will continue. If we wait a little bit more, he has crafted 3 more bread. And now, as you can see here, he has crafted 18 bread and only 9 wheat left. We take the information again, and after some time he has crafted 21 bread, using up all 63 wheat. So how in 21 bread, we give him another 3, adding up to 24, and another 3, 27. Since this number is greater than 24, the farmer is going to see the other villager and attempt to pass the remaining 3 bread. And after that, the farmer has 24 bread. We can give 24 to this one and attempt breeding. And when attempting breeding a few times, they will consume their items. And finally, the last item we have to see how to remove is the bone meal. As you may know, one of the mechanics of the farmer is applying bone meal towards crops. They may be obtained by composter, or they may pick up from the ground. So in the case of the previous remover, we can see that we do not see this mechanic because the observer detects automatically when the crop is planted, and it is removed automatically. But what if instead of this instant reaction, we make a slower circuit? Well, what you are watching here is a simple redstone clock, the one we always build. With these hoppers facing one another, inside of these are 23 items. I chose 23 because with 24, for example this redstone over here, is going to reach a power level of 2, and we only need power level 1, which are obtained with 23 items or less. Each hopper with their comparator directed towards a solid block, then a redstone piece over here, facing one another the sticky pistons with a redstone block in between. Facing the redstone piece we have an observer powering the sticky piston, which is moving this redstone block over here. And up here we have an observer detecting this same redstone piece, and 2 observers more over here to cause a delay towards this piece over here. And this final piece is doing something similar as the previous circuit, activating this redstone block over here. And this final repeater on position 1. So what this redstone contraption does is give the farmer enough time in order for him to apply the bone meal. So after some time, we take information and watch his inventory, we can see it's completely empty. So here we are again in the dark room. We're going to give him some crops, give him some bone meal. He picks them up. So we're going to see he planted the potato and he's going to try again. And maybe apply some bone meal. And there, he did it. As you can see here, he is using up the bone meal. And after some time we take again the information, paste it. You can see here he has used up most of the potatoes, he has only 9 and 27 bone meal. You can probably see that more earlier than after. He's going to run out of potatoes and he will not be able to use up all the bone meal. So we're going to try to give him some more potatoes. As the remover has been storing potatoes over here, we can just pick some. We first gave him a stack of potatoes, and you can see that he has been using bone meal to produce more potatoes than before. So we can take some and give him back in order for him to use up more bone meal. And as a summary, these are the 3 techniques we can employ in order for a villager to clear up his inventory. Number 1, we have this remover over here to remove the items that are plantable. Then we can move these villagers towards contraption number 2 and use up all the items that are considered food, which are consumable in breeding. And number 3, if the villager has some bone meal remaining, we can pass it through the contraption over here and make the villager use it up. Which I can almost guarantee that a farmer will never have more than 1 stack of bone meal, since they are constantly using it up. They will only have a few items. And as a summary, this is basically a guide towards the inventory of villagers. Now, for a future episode, I would like to use all these mechanics and teach you how to use villagers and make them work for us. But some changes are looming regarding villagers, since they seem to have traits that are dependent on biomes, so maybe that will be another future episode. This will be somewhat Trading with Villagers 2.0. This has been BitWire161, and see you on the next episode.